name is Joy. I've been a practicing hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner for 22 years. I'm also a qualified hypnotherapy trainer and NLP trainer. So I did a lot of studying in my first 5 years or so. Today I'd like to talk to you about, well, it's really for newly qualified therapists or even therapists who wonder how it's difficult sometimes for some clients to get them to go into a trance. Now you probably know already that the rule of yes 3 times that we get from a client usually indicates psychologically that they will do what you're asking them to do. I think as a new client, they're probably vulnerable and wondering what hypnosis is all about if they've never experienced it before. And if you're a new therapist, then you've got your own anxieties. It's a difficult one, isn't it, when you're first starting off in practice to really come across as being confident and know what you're doing, because there's a myriad of things that are going through your mind. So I went through all of that at the beginning of my career, and I don't believe really that the training I had really went into depth about how we can encourage the client to agree that they're going to go into hypnosis, and then there's never a problem. Now, of course, you might say, well, you've been in practice a long time, so therefore you're going to come across as confident, and most of the clients, if not all, are going to go into trance. In fact, I rarely get I can't even remember the last time a client said, no, I can't relax, no, I'm not going to go into trance. That's what throws therapists, and especially hypnotherapists, the most, when a client says, I can't do what you're asking me to do, because it's almost like the end of the session then, where do you go from there? So the idea is that we use those NLP skills of creating rapport and maintaining rapport. Now, of course, it's not just hypnotherapists, it's any kind of therapist, whatever discipline they're using and practicing, they really need to get excellent rapport with that client, because that client is feeling vulnerable. There's all sorts going through their mind of whether it's going to work, whether they like you. Hopefully they've seen perhaps little podcasts or blogs, or anything that they can see the kind of person that you are, or maybe they've spoken to somebody who's recommended you. But let's take an example of a newly qualified therapist really wanting to get that client into good rapport with them, because we know once you do that, then everything else will go much easier. So even from a phone call that you might have, if it's a text or email or messenger, then you haven't met them, so you don't know. So that immediate response that you have when they come to your practice is really important. And then obviously really good listening skills, making sure that they're comfortable. All of those kind of things are so vital, so important. In fact, my students get asked a question, what kind of environment is really important to the client? And I don't need to tell you really, do I, that wherever they're going to be, whether it's in your own home or whether it's in an office, then quietness, no distractions, TV, radios, phone calls, pictures on the wall that might distract them other than just maybe a view or something like that. They're all the obvious things that we can lose rapport with our clients. So when we've listened to our client and the kind of thing that they're looking for, the solution that they want now, they don't want just talking therapy all the time. They want to tell you what the problem is. But even more important than that, they want to go out knowing there is hope on the horizon, and you are looking to help them to find a solution for whatever problem that they've brought in. So you've listened to them, and hopefully if you're NLP experienced and trained, then you'll be using some of those skills as well. And remember, whatever NLP you're using with your client, again, you must keep and maintain rapport. If for any reason you think you've lost rapport with the client by some of the non-verbal interactions that you're having and seeing that are coming from the client, then the best thing to do is to say, look, I may have gone wrong somewhere, I can see that you look a little bit uncomfortable. Do you want to tell me about it? And then, of course, if it is about you, then you need to profusely apologise and get back into rapport. Do not attempt to take the client into trance if you've lost rapport, because it's not going to happen. They will just sit there and think, oh, let's get this over and done with, it's not going to work for me. You're going into a business, you want to create good rapport so that your clients will come back to you and will recommend others. So the very first thing that I ask a client then, when I say, let's talk about hypnosis, what is your experience of hypnosis? And they may say, none, I've never experienced it before. Again, so many people are internet savvy now, so they look at all kinds of things and they can read a lot of things. Certainly 22 years ago, many clients said to me, I've got no idea. They use the old one, running around like a chicken or barking like a dog. That's just entertainment value, and I laugh along with them, and maybe sometimes I say, well, you know, sometimes I get bored, and sometimes... Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. I was trying to maintain it.
Okay. Just go back on it a little bit.
Go back to...
Chicken or something. For the entertainment value, whatever you were saying.
So sometimes it may be entertainment value that they've seen something or somebody says something to them. I usually use the old chestnut, well, I'm not going to get you to do any of those things unless, of course, I get really bored, and then it might be fun. You can guarantee every single client, and I know it's a generalisation, but they laugh because they think it's funny. And they know full well that they're not here, this is clinical hypnosis, it's not entertainment hypnosis. So first of all, I've asked them what they know about hypnosis, and then if they know nothing, I'll say, what do you think is going to happen? So important. As a therapist, you know what happens, but your client doesn't. So let's get that out of the way about what they think is going to happen. And usually if they say, well, I expect it's a relaxed state, I say, that's right, you're absolutely right. It is a relaxed state. And then I do the little bit, you know, I'm not going to hypnotise you so that you'll suddenly go, oh, and you don't know where you are. Again, that produces laughter because they're probably quite nervous at that time. You can obviously see by maybe their breathing rate has changed, or maybe they're sitting a bit more on the edge of the chair. They really don't know what they're going to experience. So the best thing is to find out what they think is going to happen, or what their apprehension is, or a bit of anxiety. Clients don't tend to say, oh, I'm anxious. They say, I'm a little apprehensive. It means you need to do a good job with your client to make sure that they're comfortable. So I normally say, you know what, hypnosis is a bit like a daydream state. Do you know that thing when maybe you're sitting reading a book and you're miles away, somebody says something and you jump a little bit like that? You've been in a trance state if that happens to you. Of course, the old one is, remember that when you drive, you often forget where you are and you think, how have I passed those roads? The other one that works really well is saying, you know when you're going to sleep and you're not really asleep and somebody says something to you and you've heard it and you might grunt or nod or say yes. So you're in between that sleep state and awake state. That is a daydream state, and that is what hypnosis is. So you are going to hear everything that I say to you. Sometimes people drift away. Sometimes people know everything that's been said. But the idea is now that you're just going to sit back, relax, and let me do all the work to help you to get better, to get what you want. At that point, you can see whether the client is feeling comfortable, and you can say, are you feeling comfortable now? If we get a yes, that's really good. This is the next bit that never ever fails. Trust me, believe me, this is the one that never fails. Only on a first time with a client who's a bit apprehensive or a bit anxious about it, this is the thing that really works. So I say, okay, what I'd like you to do, I don't know where that's come from. So shall I start again? What I'd like you to do.
Yeah.
So I say, now then, this is what I'd like you to do. Now my voice sounds quite authoritative at that time, but kindly, and I've got empathy towards that client. I'm going to ask you to sit back in a chair. You can put your arms and your hands however you want them to be, comfortable for you. And I'm going to ask you to focus on something either inside the room or outside the room. Now, I will explain that a little bit to the client because they may think, oh, this is a trick now, they're going to, this person's going to do something to me. I say, it can be outside, especially if you can see through a window. Whatever you choose, it doesn't matter. Years ago, hypnotherapists would be quite directive and quite authoritative and might say, I want you to look at this lamp, I want you to look at this picture. Let the client choose what they want to look at. And that's always interesting for me because sometimes they're looking in all sorts of places until they find something that they like to look at and they want to look at. When they've found it, I'll say, that's good, okay. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count from 10 down to 1, and this is what I'd like you to do. So I've made an embedded command there, I'd like you to do. When I say 10, I want you to just simply close your eyes like this, and I will do the action, and then open them back up again straight away. Then I'll say 9, and the same thing will happen. Your eyes will close, and they'll open up again. And then I will continue counting all the way down to 1, with your eyes opening and closing, until we reach the number 1, and then you can allow your eyes to remain closed. Is that okay with you? Now again, I've looked for those yeses, so that they understand it. Some people, and it's nothing to do with the intelligence, often will question that. They become a little bit analytical and say, oh, so have I got to close my eyes on the 10? And I say, yes, that's right, but it doesn't really matter. I will guide you through it. So once again, they feel reassured. Now, the good thing about this introduction to hypnosis is that you haven't said, close your eyes now. That's what makes clients uncomfortable to begin with, because they don't really know you at this stage, and in that setting, above any other kind of therapy, this is a setting where the client's got their eyes closed but you haven't, and they feel a little bit vulnerable about that. So I'm not going to say that, but you try it yourself. Somebody asks you to close your eyes but they've got their eyes wide open. So they know that they're going to close their eyes in a moment, but then they'll open them up straight away. Now that whole business of opening their eyes up, they can say to themselves, everything's fine, everything's really good. They're reassuring themselves. There's no point you reassuring them at that stage because they need to do this for themselves. So we go from 10, and as soon as they close their eyes, we're going to use that wonderful little Erickson, yes, that's right. They open their eyes, 9. They close their eyes, that's good. Again, they open their eyes, 8. Stop saying anything at all except counting the numbers. So you're counting the numbers. You might find that some clients, when they get to 3, they can't actually open their eyes again. They're almost like this. They don't want to. They feel really comfortable because that action of closing the eyes and opening up again makes them feel tired. So when we get down to number 1, we say, that's good. Now allow your eyes to remain closed. And then you start to proceed with your induction and your deepener then. And that's the way that we can allow clients to feel really comfortable going through that first time of hypnosis, and you to feel comfortable as well. Then you feel more confident within yourself. If you take a new client and say, okay, I want you to close your eyes now and start off, it's possible that it may not work really well for you. And you may notice that the client isn't going into that trance state. You start getting anxious inside, and it's then carrying across probably in your voice to your client. So if you use that method, which I teach all my students, it's tried and tested. And remember now, I never learned any of this during my training at all. I learned the hard way. In the first 3 months, I had clients who said, I don't think I'm relaxing. They'd open their eyes and my stomach would turn over thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get them into a trance because it's already failing? Once that happens, it's really difficult to bring them back into rapport and get them to do what you want to do. So I thought I will try that. It's I think a Dave Ellman approach as well. I think he used to use that a lot, of closing eyes, opening up again, and it just worked so well. In the same way that a rapid induction that I'll talk about in the next blog that I do, how to get clients into a rapid induction. And again, I didn't learn any of these things. I had to buy videos at that time and watch them over and over and over again until I thought I've got to feel confident enough to use this, maybe with friends or family, and then when I felt even more confident, I can use it with a client. So there's lots of skills and tools that we can use that will help clients to go into good trances, which make you feel good, and even more important, helps your client to have that really good belief. You know, when clients come out of trance, they often say, "Oh, I heard everything you say." And I say, "Yes, that's right, you did. Repeat back to me what I said." And that's the moment that they say, "Oh, my mind's gone blank." And I say, "Good, you have been in hypnosis." Till next time, bye-bye.